So Kevin, you and I sit on a Bible study small group every Monday morning with about 60 to 70 professional baseball coaches and scouts, and you and I have seen the power of small groups. And we'll get to talk about that, but today I really do want to talk about living sent. And so I've got a couple guys from our group, Tommy Jackson, Gary Gilmore, and Dan Drellinger, who wanted to share a little something with you, actually, about living sent. So let's check that out.
Kevin was there for me when he didn't know me from Adam, and was willing to get on with you and have a conversation with me that turned into him really leading me to Christ. And I don't think there's any bigger calling in a Christian's life than to do that. And Kevin was obviously ready, willing, and able to do so. It's a day I'll never forget. It was November 18th, 2020. I know that because at the end of our conversation, Kevin encouraged me to write a verse down, paste it on my mirror or somewhere where I see it, and I look at it every single day. So my path was very jagged to Christ, but was very straight by the time that I had, essentially had my interactions with Kevin. And it is funny that I've never met him in person, but feel extremely close to him. And so it's hard to understate the impact and the influence that he's had on my journey to Christ.
When a person lives sent, what's different about them? What is different about a person than they just get up, they go to work, they do what they're qualified to do? What's different? What would you guys say? What's different about a person who lives sent in their lives? It's like they have a bigger purpose they're living for. What would you guys say?
I tell you, Mike, I'm going to jump in on this one because it's something that I do every day. There's a prayer in the Bible. It's a very short prayer, but it's something that's really meant a lot to me and really helped shape my life in a lot of ways. It's a prayer of Jabez. And the very first line to me is the epitome of when I think of Kevin Burrell, in the verse, it's, "Oh, that you would bless me indeed and enlarge my territory." To me, that is Kevin Burrell. He wakes up every morning, goes to bed at night, praying to the Lord that please bless me indeed, God. I'm asking for your blessings, not in monetary value, but in opportunities to bless others, Lord, to bring your name to the forefront, to bring, the opportunity to spread Christianity and my love for you. And in so doing, that you enlarge my territory, my opportunity to express my love and everything that I believe in Christianity to other people. To me, this is the epitome of who Kevin Burrell is, and who I hope in my lifetime people one day could say that about me. And to me, he is a great example of this verse.
What would you guys say? What's living sent look like to you when you see somebody who lives sent?
You can tell that they're intentional. They're intentional about everything that they do. To take Gilly's point a little bit further, they're intentional about what they do. In other words, they are looking for opportunities to be Christ-like to other people, to people who may not know who Christ is. And in order to do that, and Kevin is this also, he's very authentic, not just in his faith and not just what he shares, but it's just in being a person. I think in this day and age, it's easier, not harder, to tell who is authentic and who is not. And Kevin is certainly a very authentic person who will take time with you. Now, Dan, you mentioned that you've not met him in person, and he's a big dude. Let me just say that he could be physically, he could be intimidating, right? Because he's a large man, and he could be scary. Let's just call it what it is. But he's got the heart of a teddy bear, and he loves people, and I think that just comes right out of him. And that, to me, is a surefire way to tell if someone is living sent.
If you were to be able to tell Kevin the difference he's made in your life, if you were to look him in the eyeballs, you were in the room, and you said, Kevin, I want you to know the difference you've made to me, what would you say to him? Tommy, I'll start with you and we'll just work our way around. What would you say?
Kevin, I love you, brother. Thank you so much for being in my life and a part of my spiritual journey. Not only have you taught me things, I made notes about you, that you are a brother who holds people accountable with truth and with love. And I pray that I can have the similar type of influence that you have on people. I want to do the same in my life. And I'm just so grateful for you. You've been with me through thick and thin. And love you, man. Thank you.
How about you, Coach Gilmore?
You're an incredible man. You're a man of God, and I can't tell you how much influence you had on my life. I love you for it. You have a unique ability to not preach at me, but to teach me how to learn and how to be a better Christian. And it's so incredible. I am so at ease talking Christianity with you, and I find very few people in my life that are so professed Christians that don't feel like they try to overwhelm me. We just have a great conversation, and it's part of life, and I learned so much for you, and I am so blessed in my life to call you one of my best friends. I love you.
Coach Drellinger?
Kevin, you've changed my life, and I think you've helped make me a better father, a better husband, a better coach. Because of what you've done and leading me to Christ, I can't thank you enough for being willing to take a stranger in off the street, technically speaking, off of Zoom and phone calls, and really being there for me when I really needed it, and being able to help kind of spread the message and spur my life on to try to help others. You've impacted me to the highest degree. I admire you. I look up to you, not just because of baseball, far more because of what you bring to the spiritual table. It means the world to me, Kevin. I consider you a very close friend, and I'm very, very thankful to be able to say that. I hope we get to cross paths soon, and I love you. Thank you.
So, Kevin, sitting here, hearing that, how does that feel? How does that make you feel?
Humbling. It's very humbling. It makes me certainly feel that living sent there is such a priority in that, and there's so much accountability in that, and I'm just honored. I'm honored by just hearing that. It's such an encouragement for me personally.
Yeah, it's huge. And we heard a good bit there about intentionality and purpose. So what role do you think that prayer, what kind of role does that play in living sent and that kind of intentional living?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you asked about the word intentionality, because just with my group this morning that I'm discipling, we went over this thing of intentionality, living intentional or living randomly. And so I think it's so important that when we are trying to make an impact with our lives and we're trying to be an influence on others, that we do live intentional, that we are planning. We are not trying to wing it. We're not trying to live our day getting up and just winging it through life, that we, just as Jesus was, who was our model, that we're living very intentional. And he knew where he was going that day. He was very strategic. He had it planned out for that day from village to village. And so, as Mike is so good about reminding us about getting up, locking eyes with Jesus, and walking towards him that day. And when we can lay our head on our pillow that night, that we look at that and say, I lived my life intentionally that day, locking eyes with Jesus and walking towards him. And I did the best I could today in abiding with him and living out his character and his conduct.
So good. And even just the idea of being prepared. I love what Coach Drellinger said in regards to that conversation in which you led him to Christ. Mm-hmm. He specifically said that you were ready, willing, and able How did you get to a place where you were ready, willing, and able to lead someone to Christ?
Yeah. So growing up in my younger years, grew up out on the West Coast, and when I came to faith in Christ, June 3rd, 1976, and growing up in church and in a Christian home, I was in church every Sunday morning, every Sunday night, every Wednesday night, grew up in a Christian family. But it wasn't until 20 years later, or 20 years ago, in my life personally, that I didn't really understand what it meant to be a disciple and then how to make and multiply disciples. So I knew about the importance of discipleship in a church, and that churches are to have disciples in it. I had no understanding of how to be a disciple and really how to multiply or how to go and make disciples. I didn't know how to do that. And I didn't really understand that concept or that process of living intentionally and being able to share my faith in a way that was gonna to be a disciple maker until really 20 years ago.
Yeah, wow. So if you could sit down with a follower of Jesus and could give them an encouragement to live sent, what would you tell them?
So I try to tell them to work a process of going to the culture and bringing them into the crowd environment to sort of reach out, to plug them in, to build them up, and to send them out. That's really the grid that I try to, when I'm talking to a young Christian or a new believer in the faith, and trying to take them from untrained to fully trained, of Luke 6:40, and trying to teach them this grid to work through of reaching out to them, reaching out to the culture, and bringing them in to the crowd, and plugging them in, and then building them up through discipleship to the point where you can send them out where they can multiply it again.